It is Better Country 101.7 The Bull. Thanks for listening here this morning, and we are joined by a very special guest here today, and happy to say this. We're joined by the lead singer of a group that is the 1994 ACM Vocal Group of the Year, had 12 top 20 hits in the 90s, including 3 consecutive number ones, and a group that's going to be hitting the stage at the Legacy Theater in Carthage this weekend. The band is Little Texas. Their lead singer, Porter Howell, joining us here this morning. Porter, good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm really good. That was quite an introduction. Thanks.
Well, hey, absolutely. You deserve it. I mean, you've been with the group for a long time, since it got started, all the way back, I believe it was 1988. I know that was a while ago, but what do you remember about the early days of Little Texas, and how did you yourself become a member of Little Texas?
I became a member from the very beginning, like you said, a founding member, through two things here in Nashville. One was Belmont University, where a couple of us attended and met each other. The other one was good old Opryland, USA, where 4 of the 6 original members worked. So we met through those 2 things, either at Belmont or at Opryland, just like-minded guys. And through Belmont, we happened to know a couple of guys who were working in the industry as well. It's like newbies, like interns at Warner Brothers. He said, hey, I've got a friend who just got a real job at Warner Brothers in A&R, and he wants to start a band. And we just looked around at, some of our best friends and guys we were already in bands with, and put it together.
Well, and like you mentioned, you guys signed with Warner Brothers there in 1989, released an album a couple of years later, 91, spawned you 3 top 20 hits, and it was the second album, though, that you guys took off with. So many people remember it. Your album, Big Time, released in 93, What Might Have Been, God Bless Texas, My Love. You guys won the ACM Top Vocal Group of the Year in 94, as I mentioned in your intro. When you guys were working on that album, did you guys have a feeling that you were working on something special, or were you kind of pleasantly surprised when that took off?
A little bit of both, actually. First time had done well enough. It had gone almost gold. And I remember at the beginning of the Travis Tritt tour that we did in late 92, 93, we were at Starwood here in town, Amphitheater, and our record label president, Jim Ed Norman, put his arm around a couple of us and said, guys, I've been listening to the new album. Who knows? I love it, but you are definitely in the game, and you're one hit away from connecting this name, with the band and hits, and who knows, it might be on this record. I think it was just being non-committal, but we had an idea that What Might Have Been was the best song that we had come up with so far, and that the label chose that song to be first because of it. So that started the party, and Jim Ed turned out to be right. We were those 3 hits away from the next level, and that album drugged the first one gold and went triple platinum.
Yeah, and that album, again, it had those 3 hits that we talked about, but arguably your most iconic song, a lot of people would argue, is God Bless Texas. That is still loved to this day. You had Lainey Wilson opening the ACMs with that song. You got folks at Billboard last year naming it the #1 song with Texas in the title. I mean, you think of some of the names, some of the songs of those, artists that are that have Texas in the titles. You've got Lukenbach, Texas. You got All My Exes Live in Texas. Alabama's If You're Gonna Play in Texas. Even Texas Tornado, so on and so forth. You guys are at #1. What does that honor mean to you from the guys at Billboard?
A whole lot. That was incredible to actually have that song. We kind of still, all these years later, kind of consider ourselves underdogs. And it just seems like we'll always come in second or third with stuff like that. But that shows it's not really about us. It's about that song. And so that was really a cool surprise honor, as was Lainey opening the ACMs with it this year. Complete surprise, and just a testament to, like you said, the staying power of that song.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's still loved to this day. Now, you guys did have a little bit of a hiatus, late 90s, early 2000s, but then you guys came back. Things were a little bit different when Tim left. Of course, Stephen Troy took over vocals for a few years, but then you got the call to lead the group vocally as the group continued on. What was that feeling like, being called upon to be the leader of the group that you've essentially been with for so much of your life?
We had tried out Stephen, and in ways it worked, but there was just some personality things and that weren't working out. And we just looked at each other after his time was done. It was 2 years, and said, you know, it would really be cool if one of us sang. We wouldn't have to get used to anybody else. We wouldn't have to have the public get used to somebody that wasn't in the band. So it made sense that an original member, and all eyes turned at me, Dwayne and Dwayne need to sing harmony. So, and I, you know, had co-written along with Dwayne just about everything we've ever done. So in a way, I was the original singer. I would show it to Tim, you know. It was scary for me. It was a lot to take on. Not only are you singing lead, but I still play lead guitar, and I had never really fronted. I mean, we were still able to play in front of 10,000 people at times, you know. So all eyes are on me all of a sudden, and I got to do the talking and all the front man things, and I just channeled, found an inner rock star somewhere and stepped in and did it. This is my 22nd season singing.
Yeah.
So long over the jitters. Now I'm used to it, and it's my gig.
Hey, and you've done a fantastic job with it, and you know, you still guys are still kicking it here in 2025. We're talking with Porter Howell, by the way, with Little Texas here on 101.7 The Bull. Mike Eli from Eli Young Band was quoted, and this is a quote that says that your songs had a huge impact on the development of their band as a whole. If I were to tell you when Little Texas was starting out that bands 30 years later would be saying stuff like that, would you have believed it? And what goes through your mind when you hear bands and artists say stuff like that about you guys at Little Texas?
I wouldn't have believed it, and it's quite an honor, and it's kind of what goes around comes around, because we were the same way about Alabama and Restless Heart and groups, huge groups like the Eagles. You know, we didn't want to copy anybody, but of course, as a band, you're going to be influenced by what you like, you know, about what they did, you know, and try to incorporate those things. So to hear that other bands have done that with our music, yeah, it's quite an honor. And I tell you, when, you know, a lot of people are nostalgic about Little Texas, and they'll come to us and say all kinds of things, you know. The first time I did this was 2 year songs, and you meant so much to me. But almost, how do I say this? A lot of young musicians of that time were very influenced by us and Diamond Rio and Shenandoah. Because they were in a band or a guitar player and not a singer, they gravitated more towards listening to bands than they did, say, George Strait or Clint Black. You know what I mean? So even with bands that may open for us, we get a lot of that. Like, man, if not for you guys, I wouldn't have gotten into this kind of thing. You and Diamond Rio, they always say, it's who I listen to. So.
Well, that's got to be
always great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be a great thing to hear. Again, Porter Howell joining us here, lead singer of Little Texas. Couple more things before we let you go here, Porter. For the folks that are coming to the show at the Legacy Theater in Carthage, what can they expect when you guys take the stage there?
All of the hits. We hit on all but maybe one single that we had out, and it didn't do that well on the charts or whatever, you know. So you'll hear everything that you heard on the radio back in the day, and our live version of that, plus some surprises. We do some covers for fun. We're changing some of that up this year. I don't think they'll be changed by the time we play there, though. But some fun covers and all the greatest hits done with a twist and a lot of energy, even though we're older now. There's still a lot of... We approach it like a rock band.
Hey, we're looking forward to that show. Going to be a lot of fun here. How can people keep in touch with you if they want to stay in touch with you guys there at Little Texas?
All of the things. LittleTexasOnline.com online, and then we have a YouTube channel, a Facebook, still have a TikTok.
Hey, it's back now.
It's back already, and Instagram. So on everything online. So look us up.
All right, sounds good.
Very active on all that.
He's the lead singer of Little Texas. It's Porter Howell joining us here on 101.7 The Bull. Porter, thank you so much for taking the time chatting with us this morning.
Thank you.